we're standing here tonight, not because of their actions, but because God is with us. They shot 27 times into that house and left that night, and they could have been murderers. We could all be dead. It's not because they wanted us alive that we're alive. And I think that their sentencing should be because of that. I have felt anger since then. I felt sadness.
Before we step into this courtroom, understand what's at stake in this case. A quiet home, a birthday gathering, and suddenly 27 bullets rip through the walls of a house filled with people. Somehow, miraculously, no one died, but one victim was shot in the chest and survived by what doctors call a 1 in a million chance. Today's hearing isn't about whether the shooting happened. That's already been established. The real question now is how the justice system should respond. How severe should the punishment be for an act that could have turned into a mass murder? You'll hear emotional testimony from victims who are still living with trauma, panic attacks, and fear long after the bullets stopped flying. And you'll also see the court wrestle with a complicated issue. How do you sentence someone for a crime where dozens of lives were put at risk, but, by sheer luck, no one was killed? As you watch, think about this. Should the sentence reflect what actually happened, or what almost happened?
For why they decided to do this, for what reason. But most importantly, forgiveness. And forgiving doesn't mean that I have to forget what they did, but I deserve to forgive so I can move on and feel freedom from this.
Thank you. And if you would again, just state your name and go ahead and say whatever it is you'd like to say.
Madison Wicks. So I am the victim that was shot in the chest. That was my house that was shot into 27 times. It was also on my little sister's birthday. I feel like this has definitely impacted me and my friends and my family more than anyone who hasn't gone through can anticipate. I have been hospitalized since this for anxiety attacks. Just a few weeks ago, I was in a drive-thru and heard a noise that sounded similar to a gunshot, and I had a panic attack in the drive-thru and had to leave. My mom texts me every day if she doesn't hear from me and asks if I'm alive. My little sister has panic attacks. I had to take a year off from school because I was considered in my nursing program due to my injuries. When I was in the hospital and I had talked to the doctors and the surgeons, they had told me that it was lucky that I was alive. It was a 1 in a million chance because the bullet, where it went in my chest, a millimeter in any direction, it would have ricocheted or hit something important. It was super close to my aorta and my heart. And I do want to say that I will also try to forgive, to move on, but I'm also angry because this is something that never should have happened. And I feel like, based on like what the surgeon said and how I feel with this, like it was a 1 in a million chance that I'm standing here able to speak today. And I feel like it is a 1 in a million chance that we are not at a murder case. So.
Mayor, Mr. Margosian is also correct on the agreement sentence on the low end of the guidelines. So I'd ask the court to sentence Mr. Blue at 43 months to 15 years.
I'm sorry, Ms. White, just so clear, was that a sentencing agreement that you made at the time of sentencing? Was that a recommendation?
It was a recommendation based on the cooperation of all of the court candidates.
All right, in determining the appropriate sentence.
I'm sorry, if I can just address, so just to make sure that the issue is not waived, I'm formally stating that OV4 and OV9 should be scored at 0. Those were the two OVs that I wanted to have the other attorneys address, but just so we're clear, I'm stating that those should be 0. And that would reduce the guidelines to the 36 to 71, which is what it's listed in my memo.
Well, Mr. Margosian has not addressed OB9 with the court, so I don't know if he wants to address that.
All right, so let me say with respect to OB4, I think that it is obvious to me that that should be scored at 10 points. OB4 is psychological injury to the victim. I just heard from both of the victims who said more than enough to find that they have suffered psychological injury as a result of the actions that occurred here today. Even if they had not spoken, I think that there was sufficient evidence from which the court could find a psychological injury occurred in this case. But specifically, Ms. Sweet just talked about being scared of the dark, being scared to be in front of windows, reacting to loud noises. Ms. Wick testified that she's been, in fact, hospitalized for anxiety attacks, and so that is more than sufficient to find 10 points. We're going to go from here forward. So OB9, Mr. Dagnan-Gosian, what would you like to say about OB9?
Your Honor, I guess I would just ask for evidence to be offered that there were 10 or more individuals placed in danger, which would, that's the requirement for scoring 25 points for OB9.
Ms. Weiss?
Your Honor, on page 3 of the body of the PSI, it does indicate that Harley Sweet reported 14 to 15 people at the house just prior to the shooting. And you'll have to forgive me, I believe there were 2 or 3 prelims in this case, and I don't know if the testimony in this case or the prior case named all the people that were there, but Ms. Wicks or Ms. Sweet does go on to name the people that were in the house. Madison Wicks, Kaylee Sweet, Skyshawn Tyndall, Dominique Marr, Jordan Russell, Dion Lofton, Dylan Lofton, Sam Lofton, Christopher Banks, 2 males from Georgia, and 3 white males unknown to the girls.
All right, so as I read through the transcript with respect to this particular case, we know first with certainty that Mr. Tyndall, Ms. Wick, and Ms. Sweet were all in the house. Mr. Damon also testified that, I believe he referred to his group as a gang, but that included 4 or 5 people. That there was someone named Jamal Bradley there, and there was someone named Hooter and someone named Kwani, who, as I read the transcript, were all different people. And so that would be 10 or 11 people, and based on that, I believe that offense variable is appropriately scored.
Here.
In determining then the appropriate sentence in this case, the courts considered the seriousness of the offense, your history, the principle of proportionality, the statutory penalty, the cost of confinement, the report and recommendation of the probation department, as well as what's been said on the record here this morning. The criterion reasons for the sentence are the nature and gravity of the offense, the discipline appropriate to its commission, deterrence against repetition by you and by others, the potential for reformation, vindication for the law, and the protection of society. It's been alluded to or outright stated this morning already that this situation could have been much, much worse. And we are lucky that we are here today dealing with only, difficult to say only, but the reality is it could have been worse. We're only dealing with potentially some remaining physical injuries and the lingering effects of the psychological injuries caused to the victims in this case. The reality is 27 bullets got fired into a house, and everybody's lucky that nobody died. And that has effects, in my opinion, not just on the people that were in the house at the time. They obviously suffered worse than most as a result of what happened. But it's also important to note that this is a crime against public safety. This crime had an effect on the entire community. When people pick up the newspaper and read that a house in the middle of town got shot up, it has an impact on how they view the society in which they live, and it hurts their view of the society in which they live. And I think that needs to be taken into account in fashioning a sentence here today as well, because the injuries here are more widespread. They did affect the entire community. I'm glad to hear, Mr. Bowie, that you have performed well while you've been incarcerated to date. I hope that you will continue to do that as you move through the next several years of your life, continuing to deal with this. And I do take that into account in terms of fashioning a sentence. But I think that the harsh reality of the actions that you took require a greater punishment than the bottom end of the guidelines. I think that's necessary, not just to make the sentence appropriate to the activity that occurred, but also in terms of some of the other reasons that the court imposes a sentence. And that's where I come back to terms against repetition, not just by you, but by others. I think there needs to be a stronger statement that these kinds of actions simply won't be tolerated. It's going to be the sentence of the court that you serve 60 months to 15 years with the Michigan Department of Corrections. On all three counts with credit for 505 days served. You must not have verbal, written, electronic, or physical contact with any of the victims in this case. You must pay a $60 DNA fee, a $68 state cost for each felony, so $204 total, $130 crime victims' rights fee. While under the jurisdiction of the Michigan Department of Corrections, you must comply with and complete all programming required, including substance abuse, further education, job skills training, or cognitive restructuring. You do have the ability, Mr. Bowie, to appeal your sentence. When the bailiff returns, he's going to hand to you 3 copies of the notice of right to appellate review and request for appointment of attorney form. When you get your copies of that form, you need to sign 1 copy of that form and give it back to us. That just indicates you received your copies of those forms. If you want to appeal your sentence, you need to fill out the other copies of the form, mail them to the address listed in the form within 42 days.
Judge is concurrent.
I'm sorry, thank you. Those are concurrent. Mr. Dagger-Margosi, did they already give you the forms?
I have the forms here.
Okay, so you have the forms. Have you given those to Mr. Booth?
Mr. Booth signed the first one,
So if you would hand that back to the bailiff, so again, Mr. Bowie, if you want to appeal your sentence, you need to fill out the other 2 copies of that form and mail them to the address listed in the form within 42 days. Or if you know now that you want to appeal your sentence, we'll give you an opportunity to fill those out.
And there it is, the judge's final decision. The defendant will serve 60 months to 15 years in prison, a sentence that goes above the lowest guideline recommendation but still within the legal framework established by the court. What's notable here is the reasoning behind the decision. The judge emphasized that this case wasn't just about the victims inside the house. It was about public safety and the broader message sent to the community. When 27 bullets are fired into a home filled with people, the potential consequences go far beyond a single victim. The court also recognized the psychological trauma described earlier, panic attacks, fear of loud noises, and long-term emotional damage, as legitimate injuries that must factor into sentencing. But the judge also acknowledged something critical. This could have easily been a murder case. And in many ways, the sentence reflects that terrifying possibility. Now we want to hear from you. Do you think this sentence was fair? Should it have been harsher considering how many lives were put at risk? Or do you think the court struck the right balance between punishment and rehabilitation? If you found this case as intense and thought-provoking as we did, make sure to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping courtroom breakdowns and real-life legal analysis.